Ooh, Jesus, help my letters. Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 and 14. Here it is. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to visit yesterday? Sometimes it's the good old days. Y'all, we remember when we were at our best, that we were more disciplined, that we were stronger spiritually, that we were more confident, that in those days we felt more, or whether you felt more, you. Other times it's not the good old days. Other times it's not glory, but it's guilt. That we remember and we rehearse the mistake, the missed opportunity, the relationship you mishandled, amen, the season you wish you could redo, and the moment you failed. Y'all, all of us, we have different memories. Sure. Different memories, same trap. In other words, what is that trap? Living backwards. And here's the danger. You and I can be physically present today, but mentally stuck in yesterday. Good. That we can show up for work, but we replay old conversations. Y'all, we can worship in church, but rehearse regret in our minds. That you and I, we can say we're moving forward, but emotionally we live behind ourselves. And Paul says something powerful here today that I don't want nobody with this. Paul says something, y'all, that blew my mind. He said that ultimately, man, there is one thing I do. I don't want us to miss that. That is, y'all, this means that mutually it's not about doing everything. All right. But it's about focusing on the right thing, forgetting what's behind and straining toward what's ahead. That's what Paul said. Paul had a past, y'all, worth bragging about. Paul had a good past. He was educated. But he also had a past, part of his life, that he regretted. But here it is. He refused to live in either one. Because you and I cannot chase what's ahead while clinging to what's behind. That's true. Maybe this message ain't for everybody. But today, it's not about pretending your past didn't happen. No, it is about deciding that you and I won't control its direction. The fact is, Paul had something to say here in 1 Corinthians. Had a few things to say. Now, I'm going to drop them, and then I'm going to leave you alone. The first point is to release what was. Brothers and sisters, I know that I've not yet reached that goal, but there's one thing I always do, forgetting the past. Paul opens y'all with a sense of humility. I haven't reached the goal yet, but before he talks about forgetting, he admits he had not arrived. And y'all, that's a level of maturity that we all got to come to admit that we haven't arrived. Now, what he does say, he turns around and say, there's one thing I always do. And y'all, the language here that Paul is using when you start looking into your good books, he is implying a singular focus. He's not talking about 10 strategies, not talking about multiple priorities. He's talking about one controlling thing that leads us to be disciplined, forgetting the past. Now, that Greek word behind forgetting, it is intentional. It suggests intentional neglect. Wow. That there's some parts and some portions of our life that we, man, have to have intentional neglect. In other words, choosing not to let something dominate our present attention. It don't mean that we have memory loss. I'm not saying that. It don't mean denial. It don't mean pretending that it did not happen. What it means is that we got to refuse to allow the past to control present direction. Paul said, hey, listen, I ain't got amnesia. I'm just practicing discipline. In a few verses, y'all, before this, verses 4 through 6, Paul lists his credentials, right? He said, I was circumcised on a day. He was of the people of Israel. He said, hey, I'm a Pharisee. Hey, I'm faultless in this legalistic righteousness. In other words, y'all, what he said, I had status, I had some influence, I had a reputation. But look what he turned around and does in verse 7. He said, I thought these things were important. And y'all, we think that those things, man, are important. But now, he says, I think that they're worth nothing. Why? Because of Christ. Paul says, hey, I got to forget the past. He's not talking about releasing former success. He's talking about, yeah, I got to release the fact that I was formerly successful. Can I come close? He said, you and I got to release former failures too. Good. Acts chapter 8, verse number 1 tells us he approved of Stephen's death. He was glad they celebrated the fact that Deacon Stephen died. Acts chapter 9 shows how he persecuted Christians. Man, he had this religious trophy. Here go that word that we use today. But then he turned around, he had some moral traumas too. So if there's anybody that understands what it means to live in regret, shame, being nostalgic, having pride, it's Paul. But guess what he says? Can I help somebody? He says, I'm not going to let either one define me. Can't let it define me. And some people, can I help today? Some people are stuck because they peaked before they got to the top. They keep saying stuff like this. Can I help? I remember when I used to be. I was my best when. And then let's flip the page. And other people keep saying I messed up. I ruined it. I should have. I didn't. Can I tell somebody? Both of their mindsets are changed. Being successful is a change, and being a failure is a change. Because guess what? You know, when you have those man, when you have been successful, you have a big head. And get stuck in that. Can I tell you a secret? Form of glory cause us to have a big head. And then form of guilt can imprison you. Wow. Both paralyzes for growth. John chapter 21. Talking about form of faith. Peter denied Jesus, 3 times. And after the resurrection, guess what he did? He went back fishing. Why? Preacher, would John go back fishing? Because familiar man called helps to overshadow the failure. Familiar overshadows. Man, looking backwards, sometimes it's comfortable. But Jesus meets him where? On the shore. Man, right at his place, or where he decides to go back. Man, let me tell you what Jesus does that blesses me. He don't shame him. Guess what he does? He restores him. And then he says, guess what? Follow me. 4. Peter could not become the preacher of Pentecost, man, if he kept living as a denier of Jesus. Some of us will never step into our next season if we keep introducing ourselves by our worst moments. Can I tell somebody that we got to get delivered from our worst moments? True. And we've all had them. You know what? My grandma taught me how to cook real early. Taught me how to cook real early. And I remember we were in a little kitchen. We were cooking chicken at this particular time. And I flipped the chicken over too hard. And the grease popped up. And y'all, at age 8, I was done cooking. I'm done. She said, baby, I want to tell you something. She said, if you gonna cook, you gotta understand one thing. You're gonna get popped by grease. I'm like, for real? This is a part of it. Baby, in order for you to enjoy chicken, you gotta be comfortable when you get popped by grease. And I tell you, I may not get popped as much, because I got better, but I still get popped. In other words, that y'all, what I'm discovering that we got to do is we can't get stuck in those moments where we get popped. And we got to focus on the end result. Here it is. Can I tell you something? Y'all, today, we, got to choose to release our worst moments.
That's good.
Because it'll keep us from success and doing things and repeating things because we have those worst moments. Can I tell you something today? Because you release it, it ain't just honoring your story. It ain't kicking who you are to the curb. It is refusing to be ruled by a moment. If we're honest, our past, it's a part of our testimony. It's a part of our development. It's a part of our growth. But can I tell you what it's not? It's not defining us. It is not our definition. You are not who you were at your highest moment, man. At your highest moment, you are still, man, you are not who you were at your highest. But can I tell you, you are not who you are or who you were at your lowest. Can I tell you what you are? You are becoming. If you keep living, you will become. But becoming requires us to do one thing. We got to let stuff go. Because if we don't, here, I got a question for you. Ask you a couple questions. What version of me do I keep replaying? Wow. What version of me do I keep replaying? The successful one? The broken one? The one where everybody admired me? Or am I replaying the one that's ashamed? And that's another question. Where do we camp emotionally? Am I comparing, and I'm guilty, comparing my today to my best season? Do I punish myself for my worst season? Can I tell you today, this message may not be for everybody, but releasing is a decision.
It is.
It's not a feeling.
It is.
You don't have to wait to go free or feel free. You just have to choose to let it go.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, let me go. Just think if it's like trying to run a race while carrying a backpack full of trophies. Can y'all see that? Man, the runner, I beat a whole lot of people. Man, I was successful. But they're going to try to run this present race with these old trophies. All right. Maybe they help about it. How about the fact you run in the same race with a bag of old trash?
Wow.
What does both of them do? They both slow us down. And we can't run into our future with stuff strapped on our back.
True.
So y'all gotta leave it alone. But my second point is, now we gotta refocus on what's ahead. It's right here, verse 13. And straining toward what is ahead. The straining, man, that Paul describes is a runner. Here it is. Y'all, they didn't just start leaning their torso forward, man, when they got to the end of the race. It describes a runner with full extension. You ever notice when the runners get to the end of the race that they lean forward?
Mm-hmm.
Forward, y'all leaning forward or growing requires forward lean. You display your focus. When you display your focus, that's what happens. Y'all, one thing I'm reminded of Joseph. We talk a lot about Joseph. And the crazy part is, let's review Joseph's resume before the palace. Can we do that for a minute? First thing, he was betrayed, right? He was betrayed by some, Bible says, some strangers. What are some strangers? There's some strangers. What are the strangers?
That ain't what the word said.
Oh, maybe, okay. So he turned around, he's betrayed by his brothers, right? He turned around and his brothers then sold him into slavery, right? So he goes from being sold into slavery, then he gets falsely accused, right? Then they put him in jail. He helped somebody out. Don't this sound familiar? He go to help somebody out, and then when they get out, they don't turn around and help him. They forgot about him. Can I help somebody? Joseph had trauma too.
Mm-hmm.
He had some injustice. Because if he was alive today, Joseph would probably be, he would be, they would have mailed, they would have sent the flyer to your house with Joseph's picture on it. And they would have said that he was a rapist. But because you read Joseph's story, you know that the woman lied. I'm gonna leave that alone. But he had to deal with injustice, so he had to walk around, and for the rest of his life, he got arrested as a sex offender. He had disappointment. Well, here it is. When he got before Pharaoh, when he got in that position, and this is the piece that we got to get out of us. Don't rehearse betrayal. We got to work. We can't, man, my brother's ruined me.
My God.
Potiphar wife lied on me. The system failed me. No. When we get to that place, we want to tell our story. You know what he said in Genesis chapter 41, verse number 16? It's not in me. God will give the answer. What am I saying? That Joseph didn't let yesterday's betrayal, man, define today's opportunities. Guess what, man? How you gonna get before the mayor of Cleveland and he like, listen, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna do whatever you need me to do. And you talk about, you know what they did to me. I'm gone. Just think if he had mentally stayed in the pit, he would have missed his palace moments. Forward focus. Somebody say forward focus.
Forward focus.
Made him ready. That's what makes you and I ready. Forward focus makes us ready. Here it is. Can I tell you what it's like? It's like when somebody goes through a painful breakup. Years later, they meet somebody who's healthy, right? Who's stable, who's kind, who takes care of business, but they keep complaining about their last relationship. My last relationship wasn't like this. But this ends the same way. I remember how I got hurt before. And because you and I or somebody keeps rehearsing the old wound, they sabotage a new opportunity. Nothing's wrong with the new person. It's that facing it backwards. And you and I can't build something new while emotionally defending something old.
True.
Can I tell you something? What you and I rehearse, we reinforce.
That's good.
If you heard it, you rehearse. If you rehearse betrayal, that's reinforcing bitterness. If you rehearse that failure, it's reinforcing fear. Refocusing means that I will not let my past pain dictate my present posture. This can't let it do it. Can't let it do it. Cannot let it do it. We cannot, man, we got to refocus. You know what I'm going? Point 3, we got to run with resolve. We got to run with resolve. We got to run with resolve. Philippians verse 14, yeah, I keep trying to reach the goal. You hear what he said? He said, this is the easy read version. He said, I keep trying to reach the goal. Let me say it one more time. Maybe y'all missed it. I keep trying to reach the goal. I keep trying to reach the goal. And I get the prize for which God called me through Christ to the life above. Paul says, I want y'all to hear that today, put it in your spirit. I keep trying to reach. In other words, y'all, that's an active pursuit. We have to actively keep pursuing, keep trying to reach. Man, that Greek word trying means to pursue, to chase, to press toward with intention. Y'all, to run after aggressively. Y'all, this is the interesting part because this same word, Paul used it in his life earlier. What did he say? When he was pursuing, or rather persecuting the church. So here it is. Paul says, y'all, we said something like this. Y'all, we turn around and we say, y'all, keep that same energy. Mm-hmm. Anybody ever heard that, y'all? We talk about keeping that same energy. Mm-hmm. Paul said, baby, I did it before y'all said it. Paul says, I'm keeping the same energy. The same energy that I persecuted the church with is the same energy that I'm choosing to pursue Christ. So he killed Christians, man. He was hostile toward Christians, man. Man, but now he's chasing Jesus with the same hunger. In other words, if we can do sin well,
That part.
then we can do Satan well.
That part. That's good.
How we effective pop like a drop in the hand dancing, and then we get in the presence of the Lord and don't do no dancing.
Oh my.
I'm leaving you. Ultimately, we gotta release. We gotta release. We gotta release. We gotta release. Because guess what release does? Release clears the past. Refocusing directs the mind. But when we resolve issues, it mobilizes the will. Without resolve, we'll stay inspired, but we'll be inactive. Inspiration without movement becomes frustrated. How many of us get frustrated? Because Paul says this. I don't want to give that example yet. Paul says, I keep trying, right? He says, man, I'm being persistent, I'm disciplined, and here it is what we got to have, endurance. But he admits in verse 13, as much as I keep trying, here is the struggle, Milton, Atterberry, to keep trying, but you haven't arrived. That's the tough part, that we keep putting the energy in, keep putting the work in, keep pressing forward, but we're still not there.
True.
But even though we're not there, you and I got to refuse to stay idle.
Yeah.
Because growth isn't automatic. Growth is intentional. And when you and I decide to grow, guess what? We'll grow. Can I tell y'all a secret? Come here, David. David felt publicly right. He sinned, he failed, he suffered the consequences. But here is the blessing that allows that the story don't stop there.
That part.
Psalm 51 shows him, he repents, right? That David did spend the rest of his life rehearsing his worst moment. It was a bad moment. But we don't have to keep rehearsing. He pursued being restored. He didn't let that failure, man, take over his calling.
That's good.
He ran with resolve. And some of us need to hear this today. Failure is not final unless you and I stop pursuing. Resolve, let me tell you what resolve say. Resolve say, may not be where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. Going forward, it requires effort. I ain't gonna let this cause me to stay there. Shame paralyze me. Listen, I have to lean forward with intent. Man, I have to be intentional about pursuing what's before me.
Yeah.
God promises purpose, right? But guess what? You and I have to pursue that growth. Here's the crazy part, that when we mess up and we have those moments, grace opens the door and resolve walks through it. Can I ask you a question? Where have we stopped pressing? Where have we stopped pressing? Or when did I lose momentum? Or where have I settled for survival instead of pursuit? Because you know what the computer does? At a certain part of the computer, what happens is you push the button, and I believe you can cause the computer to enter into safe mode to keep further damage from happening. Fact is, we got to resolve to go forward. I'm closing, but we got to resolve. What does it look like? It's praying when we don't feel like it. And I have many days. Showing up when motivation, when it drops. Staying disciplined when our emotions, and when we get emotional, man, we get to decide to do whatever. But we gotta stay disciplined even when our emotions go up and down. And we gotta choose to grow even when comfort calls us. Because comfort will cause you to stay in a place, and man, y'all, we're not gonna coast into the next season. We gotta commit to it. Here's my example. December comes and we get really health conscious. We get really health conscious. We mad, woo, I'm gonna do right. I'm gonna walk 1,000,000 miles next year. I'm going to be a whole lot healthier. January comes, and guess what? We join the gym. And that first week, don't we get excited? Then we go buy all kinds of stuff to start exercising. Then we get inspired by the second week, And by that third week, you're tired. But guess what resolve does? It keeps us showing up in March. That ain't emotion, that ain't hype, that ain't none of that. It's ultimately consistency. Paul says, I release what was, I refocus on what was ahead, and then I run with resolve. It's release today, it's refocus, it's run. And that's how we move forward. By choosing to release, by choosing to refocus, by choosing to run. I'm gone. Look, I gotta tell y'all a story. There was a young man. Right? He went every day and he trained for the marathon. He showed up every day. He ran miles. He built his stamina. But one day during the actual race, here is Simone the mind blower. While he was running, he stumbled early in the race and scraped his leg. He looked down. He wasn't injured too badly, but instead of fixing his eyes on what was ahead, he kept looking down and stuck with where he fell. He slowed down, he lost rhythm, he lost ground, and something happened. He lost the race. He goes to his coach, he says, "Coach, man, I lost the race." He said, guess what? He said, "You didn't lose because you stumbled." He said, "You lost because you never reset your focus." And some of us didn't lose because we failed. Man, we are losing because we keep reliving it. And some of us didn't lose because of our best season. We're losing because we keep worshiping it. God, hear me today. Our best days, I'm going home. Our best days, I want to speak it to somebody that's listening. Our best days, do me a favor. When you go home this week, rehearse it, man. Say it, look in the mirror. Your best days are now behind you. Why? Because it requires us to release, refocus, and resolve. The fact is, God has more for us. God has more for you. God has more for me, but guess what we got to do? We got to lean into it.
That's good.
Why? Because God got greater ahead. Greater is ahead. It's ahead. Greater is ahead. But we got to grow into greater. Victory is promised, y'all. But maturity is practice. You don't got to tell people, "Hey, I'm growing. No, just keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Today we got to resolve. No more living backwards. No more rehearsing regret. And we're not going to romanticize yesterday. We're going to release it. We're going to lean forward. And we're going to run the race that He has set before us. I'm through.
That's good.
I'm over my time. We got to run the race. That's all we got to do is run the race. We got to release. We got to refocus, and we got to run. That's what it is. That every runner, at some point, cramps, all kinds of stuff jump off. But we got to refuse to let that stuff take us out. I'm done.
That's good.
I'm done. I'm not releasing what happened, but I am saying, in comparison, it's a little scratch. If you know that you still, even though things have happened, you're still positioned to win. You and I are still positioned to win. And you know where the greatest battle happens? It ain't here. The greatest battle is in the mind. I want to pray for somebody today. I want to believe God for you, believe God with you. If you don't know Jesus, whether you're in this room, or whether you're in virtual sanctuary, I just want to challenge you to accept Jesus, to make him Lord of your life, to give him full control. And that's simply by yielding your heart and mind to him. Give the preacher your hand and Christ your heart and make a decision to live before him. And living for God doesn't mean perfection, but it does mean pressing. It is a constant commute trying to get closer to Jesus. And if you don't know Jesus, listen, I'm inviting you to do so. Then at that whole, Pastor, I got a relationship with Jesus, but, you know, as sometimes it's a drifting. Guess what? When you drift, you gotta make a decision to get back. Fact is, coming back to Jesus, you don't ask no questions. You just simply, celebrate our coming home. So whether it's giving your life to Jesus, whether it's coming back to Jesus, or whether it's becoming a part of the church, we invite you to come make Jesus a part of your life. And then you choose to make that choice to become part of the church so that you can grow and learn your purpose and walk it out with other believers who choose to do the same thing. The altar is open. Whenever you hear about every eye closed. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you today that our story is not over. We thank you that the best is not behind us. But today we ask for more than hope. God, I'm asking that you give us discipline. Help us to release the form of glory. Help us to get rid of the form of guilt. Father, I'm asking that you teach us to refocus our mind. Help us to guard our thoughts. God, teach us to lean forward with intention. God, give us the courage to grow. God, give us strength to pursue. And give us clarity to move ahead. We choose today not to live in what's backwards. We will not define ourselves by yesterday. Yesterday was what it was. Yesterday. God, help us to choose forward in faith. We trust you for what you have ahead for us, for it's greater than what is behind. We love and appreciate you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Come on, clap your hands.